Good evening. I would like to call our regular city council meeting back to order at 7 p.m. At this time, I would like to ask Deacon Ken Hobbs from St. Timothy Catholic Church to come forward for the invocation. And then we will have Junior Girl Scout Troop 3521, Cadet Girl Scout Troop 2544, and Cadet Girl Scout Troop 3153 lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mayor Genoway. Please join me in a moment of prayer. Dear Lord, it is a day to celebrate, for we are blessed with the opportunity to freely vote in an election on matters of import which will affect our community. We are grateful for the youth who will voluntarily participate here with us this evening, the Junior Girl Scouts, the future of our city and country, as they lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance to this country of freedom and hope. We thank you for your goodness and blessings of health and prosperity in our community. This evening, we especially ask your grace on those who are called to lead this community in which we live, work, play, and worship. Grant them the wisdom and courage to know and do what is right and good and true. May they and we speak out when it is time to speak out, and listen patiently and respectfully when it is time to listen. May they and we always be guided by the spirit of community, the spirit of justice, and by the love of God. We ask that you would protect our police and firefighters and all those who work in the service of Laguna Niguel, and remind us that we are all called to be loving servants to one another. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Audience attention. Color guard advance. Color guard, present the colors. Would the Honorable Mayor, City Council members, and audience please join in to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Audience may be seated.
Hey, didn't they do a great job? Girls, thank you so much for being here tonight. We appreciate your starting our meeting off with the Pledge of Allegiance. And where are the troop leaders? Do we have any troop leaders who would like to come on down? Thank you for what you do in developing our future leaders. We know that it takes a lot of work and time and commitment, but you are developing the future leaders of our community, so we thank you with that and like to present this in recognition of your commitment to our community. So girls, if you would like to tell us your name, your grade, and what school. First names only.
My name's Addie, and I go to Niguel Hills.
My name's Janie, and I go to Niguel Hills.
My name's Leah, and I go to Wood Canyon Elementary.
My name's Michaela, and I go to White Canyon Elementary.
Oh, good. My name is Kim, and I'm the leader at 3521.
I'm Karen, and I'm the leader of 2544.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all, and let's, where's the paparazzi? I know there's some back there somewhere. Good job. Okay, who's going to do
dismissed.
Okay, fantastic, girls. Thank you so much. Okay, our first presentation this evening is a proclamation declaring July 2018 as Parks and Recreation Month. At this time, I'd like to ask our Parks and Recreation Director, Allison Giglio, to come forward for the presentation. Yes, would you like to? This is our fantastic Parks and Recreation staff. They make sure that we enjoy life in Laguna Niguel, that we have lots of fun, quality activities, quality facilities and fields. So thank you so much. You know, and most people in our city, the person they come into contact with as far as being the city is someone from Parks and Recreation. So you are the ambassadors for our city. So this proclamation, yes, stand by your proclamation, Director Giglio. Okay. Whereas the United States House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas parks and recreation programs are an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the city of Laguna Niguel, where our parks and recreation programs are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our communities, ensuring the health of all citizens, and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of the community and region. And whereas parks and recreation programs build healthy, active communities that aid in the prevention of chronic diseases and improve the mental and emotional health of all citizens. These programs also increase our community's economic prosperity by expanding the local tax base, increasing tourism, attracting and retaining businesses, and increasing property values. And whereas parks and recreation areas improve water quality, protect groundwater, prevent flooding, improve the quality of air we breathe, produce habitat for wildlife, and ensure the ecological beauty of our community. And whereas all who visit or reside in the city of Laguna Niguel benefit from the wide range of parks, trails, open spaces, sports fields, and programs at facilities such as the Crown Valley Park and Pool, the Sea Country Senior and Community Center, and the Laguna Niguel Skate and Soccer Park. And whereas the City of Laguna Niguel Parks and Recreation Department is committed to promoting the California Parks and Recreation Society's vision and slogan of Parks Make Life Better, further increasing awareness and support for recreation programs in the community. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Elaine Genoway, on behalf of the Laguna Niguel City Council, do hereby declare July 2018 to be Parks and Recreation Month. The City of Laguna Niguel recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources. Thank you so much for carrying out the mission of the Parks and Recreation in our city, and you are all fantastic ambassadors.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council, for your ongoing support and advocacy for recreation. And I invited all these people up here because they all have a piece in recreation. We have Ann from the Senior Center, Matt, who is single-handedly takes care of our fields and makes them look beautiful, Robert Olson, one of our field ambassadors, Senior Rec Leader, Kaori Garcia, who is our Administrative Secretary, Ron Rivera, our Recreation Manager, council members, Jeff Kirby, our recreation supervisor from the Senior Center. And this proclamation is very important to us because it allows, it recognizes the value of recreation in the community, but it also allows us to share our passion with the community. And we have some great programs coming up this summer, and we'd love for all of you to join us. Thank you very much.
And we know summer is your busiest time, and you make sure that we all have fun in this city.
We will make sure.
Okay, well, thank you all. Okay, our last presentation this evening is a proclamation declaring May through October 2018 as Drowning Prevention Awareness Months. At our last City Council meeting, Fire Chief Adams was out tending to victims of an emergency situation and was unable to accept the proclamation. So at this time, I would like to have Fire Chief Adams come forward for the presentation. Okay. See, I read them because words are important and it tells you why we are recognizing um, drowning prevention awareness. Whereas drowning is the leading cause of death and disability in California for children under 5 years of age, and in 2017 there were 44 fatal drownings and 56 non-fatal incidents involving children in Orange County. And whereas drowning is a major problem for adults between the ages of 35 to 64, and as a result there were 16 fatal drownings and 12 non-fatal incidents for adults in 2016. And whereas in 2016, the Orange County Fire Authority and the Orange County Healthcare Agency convened the Orange County Task Force on Drowning Prevention to educate the community on ways to prevent drownings. Whereas fatal and non-fatal drowning is a silent event occurring in as little as 2 inches of water, including swimming pools, spas, lakes, the ocean, and any other body of water. And whereas the theme of this year's water safety campaigns are always watch your child around water and never swim alone, in which in-depth information will be provided by staff on what Orange County residents can do to prevent drowning. And whereas the initiative set forth in the ABCs of Water Safety program will increase public awareness regarding proper procedures to prevent this needless tragedy, and whereas the Orange County Fire Authority, in collaboration with the Orange County Task Force on Drowning Prevention, will be taking this opportunity to increase public awareness about drowning prevention through diverse community outreach campaigns. And whereas the Orange County Fire Authority will launch its water safety campaigns in May and continue through October, now I, Mayor Elaine Genoway, on behalf of the Laguna Niguel City Council, join the Orange County Fire Authority in declaring its participation in the Always Watch Your Child Around Water and Never Swim Alone campaigns that kick off in May and continue through October by encouraging all families, parents, residents, schools, recreation facilities, businesses, and homeowners associations to become partners in preparedness by increasing their knowledge of proper safety measures in drowning prevention. Chief Adams.
Thank you very much, Mayor, Council, staff members, and members of the audience. This is a big deal, and it deeply affects us. We have far too many of these, and I know you know people in your communities who have had to deal with this tragic reality. So these summer months, they coincide with our firefighting months, as we are just going through and beginning now. I'm asking each of you to take this as serious as you can, and when you have people into your backyards and you go out boating and you're around water, that you leave your cell phones somewhere else and don't pay attention to them, and put the beverages down and take a minute to pay attention to the kids and elders who are swimming in the water, and that first set of eyes can prevent lots of accidents. And like I said, it happens far too often. And these things not only they wreck the community, they've wrecked my guys. So please make it matter. Thanks.
Okay, and Chief Adams, while you're here, I'd like to extend the sincere appreciation of our entire city for the work you and the men and women of your team have done regarding the recent fires in Aliso Viejo. We appreciate that. And also to Chief of Police Services, Matt McDaniel. We know our deputies were assisting with that as well. So thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, Mayor, again, and council staff. That was a big fire, and it got ahead of us in a hurry. So that time between the report time and the get out time is the time that we constantly have to make up. It gets ahead of us, and with it being June, the early part of June, the fire history in that canyon is essentially non-existent. And when it got going, I got the report at dispatch at about 1:30. They said a half acre, and I thought, it's hot. It's the beginning of fire season. We didn't get much rain, and we haven't had any real fires. I just got in the car and drove up, and by the time I got here, the tankers were dropping on it. So, it burned down at the bottom perimeter of Soka University, and the activity was absolutely amazing and intense to see, and a surprise to all of us. with that, I'm going to ask, again, all of you who live in and near this community to mind your setbacks, clear the brush around your homes, and make fire season matter as well, because it matters to us. And you saw the activity that what started off to be a small fire turned into 175 acres of ripping Southern California intensity with air tankers and the whole show. I still have 400 people on that fire. I came from there to here. So it's a big deal again, and we're in fire season, and just let it be a lesson that we are always in fire season, just some months are worse than others. Thanks again.
Okay, we will now move to our next item, which is public communications. Any person wishing to address the City Council will need to complete and present a gold-colored request to speak form. These are available on the back counter near Sergeant Songer, right over there. He's waving his hand. And please be aware that the time limit will be 2 minutes for each person to speak to allow equal time for all speakers. Minutes may not be given to another speaker. You may have another person read your written statement. We've received inquiries about having permit parking on tonight's agenda. It is not on tonight's agenda. And if you are here to speak on that issue, you are welcome to wait for a future meeting when it is agendized. City Clerk Gomez, are there any other request to speak forms?
No, Mayor, there are no more slips.
Okay. So, and if you do choose not to speak tonight, you just let me know, and we'll save that for another evening. Okay. First up to speak, and when your name is called, please come up to the microphone, state your name and address, and speak directly into the microphone as the meetings are recorded. First, we have Ian Pullen.
Mayor Genoway, City Council, good evening. I'm Ian Pullen. I'm the General Manager of the Monarch Beach Resort. I'm also a Lagoon Niguel Chamber Board member and also a resident of Lagoon Niguel. Here to remind everyone that the Mayor's State of the City luncheon for the Chamber takes place at 11:15 on June 22nd. You can register on lnchamber.com. Lunch is $35, and we'll get a great update on what's going on in the city from Mayor Genoway. Thank you for your leadership. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Ian. We hope to see lots of you there. Okay. Sansa Matthias. Okay. Yeah, please state your name and address in the microphone, and you have 2 minutes. Thank you for being here tonight.
Hello, my name is Sandra Matias. I'm living in Laguna Niguel 3001, Golden Lantern, apartment 231.
If you like, you can have someone read your written statement.
She's here about the parking issue. She says that she just wants to say that she has a car, her husband has a car, her daughter who goes to university has a car, and they are having issue with parking. The apartments only allow 2 parking spaces for her. And she wants another solution for another parking. She's been going to the apartments, and there's no solution there. And so she wants to see if the city can she can register and purchase a parking herself from the city. So that's what she wanted to say today. She understands that the issue of the increase in rental, it's not with you guys, but she just wants to let you know that the apartment has raised in the last 3 years about $600, and she's also under constant issue of, being a good tenant. Otherwise, she gets in a bad side of the apartment management. So it's one. She just wants a solution because it's a solution for the parking.
Okay. Thank you for being here this evening. We appreciate your coming. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, next, Juana Perez. Oh, you're back.
Yes. My name is Juana Perez, and I live on Serrano Apartments, 3001, apartment 19, Laguna Niguel, California. I just really want to say that I do live in this area, and it's a safe area. Thank you. And also want to say that having a lot of issue with the parking as well. Again, the apartment complex only provides us with 2 parking permits, and I feel like I go to them, it's a big issue, then I get on their list. I don't want to get on a bad list because I really want to live here. My son goes to Hidden Hills, walking distance from where I live. And so I'm in between the apartment not helping me, the city giving me tickets, so I'm trying very hard to get out of the apartments and hopefully join with somebody and buy a home. But until then happens, I'm a single mom too, so it's taking a little longer. Before that happens, wanted to see, and I was just thinking, how can the city help me? How can we help each other? And it would be great. I don't mind paying for a parking permit from the city, and I don't mind the parking police to enforce that. They know if I get a parking permit from the city, I'll get a number, and with that number, if I've done something wrong in my neighborhood, then they can trace me with that, right? So that's my issue with the city, but not with the city, with the parking permit. But I do appreciate you listening to me today. Thank you, Mayor, Council.
Thank you for being here. Okay, next is Irving De La Rosa. Please state your name and address, and you have 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is Irving De La Rosa. I'm a resident of Hidden Hills Apartment as well, at 30041 Tessier Street. And we have had issues with parking over the last couple of years. I've lived there for almost 4 years, and the parking situation is getting worse, not only inside the apartment complex, but I know it's also extended into the communities outside. So we're just here trying to find a solution, and I don't think taking public parking is the answer. That only divides homeowners from apartment renters, and I don't think that's the way to bring communities together. I think if the police do come around every other Tuesday, every other Wednesday, to give out tickets in the mornings to cars that are parked there for street sweeping. They can also do the rounds at night to make sure that the communities are not being vandalized, cars are not doing things that they're not supposed to be doing, people are not selling drugs. That's what the issue is at night. Other than that, I come home late at night. I'm a business owner. I have company cars, but my cars stay at work. I bring my own personal car here. And sometimes in my community, I have a permit, but because the apartment complexes, they're hiring their own security who's not coming around and doing their rounds. People are parking inside our community without their permits, which is causing us that have permits inside the community to go outside and look for parking. So I just hope that next meeting that you guys have, we can have some common ground and find a solution other than just telling people you can't park here, because I think that's more divisive than bringing communities together.
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
All right. Thank you for
Thank you.
coming to speak with us tonight. We appreciate it. Okay, next is Ignacio Torres.
Good evening. My name is Ignacio Martinez. I live in 24822 Winders Apartment G. I got issues about the parking. I understand they don't let us parking on the regular streets, but why in the main streets even we don't have to parking. That's it. It's, at least we can park on the main street, but I understand on the regular street,
Yeah. Expanded. You know, it first began in Hidden Hills.
No, all the
then
Hidden
it's gone
Hills?
on to the other streets, into the neighborhoods.
That's my question.
Okay. Okay, thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
to speak to us tonight. We appreciate it. Okay, and Rocio Geronimo.
My name is Rocio Geronimo, and I live in 24672 Windridge Apartment F in Laguna Niguel. Well, I just came because I just really need the parking spot on the street. I had two kids going in a Hidden Hill school. There's walking. My daughter's back to the college. I mean, she's in the college and she's back to work at nighttime. And I appreciate it. I got two parking spot and apartments. It's only two. My daughter has her own car. And I just really need more parking spot outside. Just really need it. I can work together if you guys, I can buy parking spot on the street with the Mission Viejo City Hall has this parking spots on the street, stickers on it. So I just wonder you guys heard me put that and really appreciate it, but that's just my question. I just need the stickers out the street and parking outside. I understand people doesn't do a lot of bad things on the street, but not all the people do it. Some people it's good, some people bad. I just wonder, and thank you so much for listening.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming tonight. We appreciate your speaking to the City Council with your concerns. Thank you. Okay, City Clerk Gomez, are there any more requests to speak?
No, Mayor, that's it.
Okay, so public communications is now closed. Okay, we will move on to the consent calendar, items 1 through 14. And staff is requesting that item number 8 be removed from the consent calendar. Are there any other items to be pulled?
Fine.
Yeah, no, that's been, it's removed. Any other? Okay, no other items to be pulled. And is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second it.
A move by Mayor Pro Tem Jennings to approve the consent calendar with the removal of item number 8, seconded by Councilmember Davies. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Just a note for staff on item number 12, if you could please, refers to 750 copies to all the schools. If you could please check to see if that is a number that's needed. I know I have the enrollment at the schools, and it's lower than that. In fact, one is about half that. So we may be able to save some trees. Way too much paper. Okay, due to the number of requests to speak forms I've received for public hearing item number 1 regarding SunPointe project, if there are no objections, I'd like to move this item up to this point in the meeting. Okay, those of you who wish to speak on this item should have completed a gold-colored request to speak form and submitted it to the city clerk. And if you're in the lobby area, please be sure to submit your request to speak form to the city clerk if you'd like to speak on this item. Your names will be called.
Would you like me to do an intro, Mayor?
Yes, I think I missed a page here or something. Something seemed quite out of order. So we will back up.
As before, I need to recuse
Yes.
myself from this
We will-
item, so you
we
let me
will
know when
back
this
up. I
item
don't
is finished.
Okay, I did have that written on my original copy. Excuse me, on Councilmember Minigar. City Manager Ridge, would you please give us a staff report?
Certainly. Good evening, Mayor and council members. This is a continuation of the public hearing for the SunPointe project, which was originally held on April 17th, 2018 at the City Council meeting. At that time, the presentations on the proposed development were made by staff and by the project applicant, and then public comments were received with the public hearing being closed and you advanced to the council discussion. It was during the council discussion that the City Council decided to continue the item to the date tonight to allow for the developer to have a workshop to answer any other questions that the community had. As detailed in the agenda report, a notice public workshop was held on May 10th, 2018. Approximately 20 individuals were in attendance, and following the workshop, related materials were posted on the city website, including the applicant's presentation, workshop notes, and detailed written responses to written questions submitted by residents in advance of the workshop. As a reminder, the applicant request and staff recommendation is that the City Council certify the project EIR, approve the requested general plan amendment and zone change to allow development for up to 60 units, detached single-family residential development on the project site, and refer the remaining entitlements with any City Council direction back to the Planning Commission. As the public hearing for this item was closed during the April 17th meeting, it is certainly at the mayor's discretion as to whether or not to resume the City Council discussion or to first reopen it for public comment. Staff certainly recommends that if you do open it for public comment, that you do allow the applicant an opportunity to respond.
Okay. Are there any questions from the council members before we open public hearing? Okay, so the public hearing is now open to receive testimony from the public regarding the appeal of the Planning Commission Action for Environmental Impact Report, EIR 17-01, General Plan Amendment GPA 14-01, Zone Change ZC 14-02, Tentative Tract Map TT 17433, Site Development Permit SP 12-07, and Minor Adjustment MA 15-09, SunPointe. Okay, so when I call your names, you will have 2 minutes to speak. Please remember that in council chambers that we listen to each other respectfully, and that there's no signage in council chambers. I will call you 3 at a time. Please line up in the center aisle so that you're ready to come to the microphone when it is your turn. We have John Ryder, Howard Kelly, and Harvey Shooter. When you come to the microphone, please state your name and address, and you have 2 minutes.
Good evening. My name is John Reeder at 25831 Avatar. I'm here tonight to tell you, to talk to you about this development that is turning into the perfect storm. First of all, we've had a shady developer that has lied and misled our community throughout this process. Next, we have a planning department that's failed to do their job. They've continued to attack our quality of life, and while employing mysterious motives, they've campaigned for this project from day one. And now we're here tonight to see if this council will approve several substantial changes and make concessions to our city's general plan and zoning codes that will without a doubt negatively impact not only residents of Country View Estates, but the entire community of Laguna Niguel. All of these changes that you're considering to make are two measures that were established years ago to ensure that Laguna Niguel would be a unique and special place to live. This is now all in jeopardy. During this workshop on May 10th, it was pointed out that this new proposal for 60 homes was largely the same or marginally better than the impacts for the plan for 71 homes. And at the City Council meeting on April 17th, the members of the council commented that there was no way they would have approved 71 homes. So I ask, if 60 is relatively the same as 71, how then can you approve 60? I posed a question in anticipation of that May 10th workshop about why 60 home alternative was better than the 35 home alternative, which was the original alternative that would require no changes to any of our plan or codes. And the response I got from the planning department was that the 35 lot alternative requires an export of approximately 400,000 cubic yards of dirt, a number that's fabricated and not supported anywhere else in the EIR. And furthermore, they responded that the 35 lot alternative is financially infeasible. So in closing, it's my hope that this council will do its job by making the planning department do its job of responsibly developing our community, and also that this council represents the constituents and residents that elected you to represent us and not bail out a developer that made a poor investment decision. So I'm making an appeal to you tonight to not complete this perfect storm. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder. Okay, as I let the public know, there are no signs in council chambers, so please put them down. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, if I may request, when they do come up, if they can tell us which community within the area you're in, whether it's Country View or something like that, and Jonathan, if you can keep track, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Howard Kelly. I live in Country View. I've been here for every one of these. I've heard every change that these guys have made to this plan, including in the initial plan saying they could do 35 homes. Then it was feasibly impossible because of financial. Had to be 71. Now it has to be 60. Now, in the report that just came out, up to 60. That creates another vagary. There has not been a solid anything on this development other than 95 homes in that area do not want it. We represent a majority. He represents a bad investment. We pay taxes. He made a bad investment. We live there. He's going to make money off it. What matters more to the city of Laguna Niguel? Homeowners, existing people, families, or a developer with a bad investment? Please think about the fact that every time we've had one of these meetings, we have lined up to the door to tell you we don't want it. We are the citizens. You are the public servants. You're there to do our bidding in the best way possible for us, not for a developer. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Harvey Schuster, and I live on Chariatis, and been here for 31 years. And when we originally bought our home, the thought was, and it was actually not the thought, it was told to us that there was going to be buildings up there at where SunPointe is now for 35 homes. So we bought with that idea in mind. If we would have known that they could build those many more homes, we never would have come into the city. There's a lot of information that we've had. We listened to the builders, and like everybody else said, they don't tell the truth. There's a lot of lies in there. The mayor stated on April 17th that sometimes there needs to be common sense about these things. And the opposite of common sense is either ignorance or ineptness. The following aspects of the proposed SunPointe development reflect ignorance and or ineptness. Modifying the master plan to add significantly greater density. Approving the significant change to the zoning code. Adding more traffic to an existing traffic problem. I don't know why some people say there is no traffic problem. I was in a major accident, and I've seen other accidents along Chariatas trying to get out of there. And I know on Country View, on Caballo, there's accidents, especially going from where the Mercedes dealer is. That stop sign is run just about every day, 4 or 5 times. Adding more traffic to an existing traffic problem, ignoring real community concerns about safety.
You have 15 seconds.
Building a new mountain of soil next to a neighboring community to solve known geotechnical issues. Thank you.
Next, we have Jan Henry, Luke Burson, and Shelley Toole. Please state your name and address, and you have 2 minutes.
My name is Jan Henry. My address is 28752 Mira Vista. I live in West Ridge Estates, directly, well, just above the proposed development. I don't want to repeat things that other people have said. I do feel sorry for the people who live down in that community and the increased traffic that this project would bring. But I want to, and it's great that the fire captain was, chief was here tonight. That was my thought over the weekend, watching the smoke rise from our neighborhood in the distance, that because that SunPointe development backs to a wild area, just a grassland, those streets are narrow on Chariatas and Caballo, and thinking about being in that community, if that community is developed with 60 homes, trying to get out one way while the residents on the other streets are trying to get out, while fire engines are trying to get in. And I know at the last city council meeting, Councilmember Davies spoke about the narrowness of those streets. And I lived through the Santiago fire in Portola Hills, and we lived on a loop that had one way in and out. And when the fire came over the ridge, before the fire engines came to our neighborhood, we left because we were afraid of that problem of not being able to get out because of the traffic of the fire safety coming in. So I know that in the EIR, the fire authority was, okay with the proposed development, but realistically, it just doesn't seem like it's a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Shelley Toole of Country View Estates, 28776 Chariatas, Laguna Niguel. I've been up here before. Thank you for letting me speak again. Before I start, I wanted to mention a story that Jim Arndt told the neighbors today. Jim's wife, Terry, died of cancer last year. Her dreams of raising her family in a nice home were destroyed, as their home is cracked and damaged due to slope failure and expansive soil. Jim and Terry both sacrificed and saved to have a nice home and raise their family, yet Terry spent her last years raising her family in a cracked and very damaged home. You know which one it is. 2 years ago, Terry told Jim, "I can no longer fight SunPointe or the city. You have to do this on your own for our boys." Terry was dying, and she needed to fight her cancer, not fight the city. Terry died on March 20th last year. This is what you, council, planning, and staff should be doing, fighting on behalf of your citizens. We're ashamed of the city has approved SunPointe through every step of this process so far. This project is wrong on so many levels. Please do as you've sworn to do, protect your citizens and their properties. This part of the comments is directed at Councilmember Jennings. Mr. Jennings, last month you implied we were whining with a not in my backyard mentality. We are not whining. Many of us have experienced major slope and foundation failure, spent our life savings to repair our homes, and for Jim, well over $100,000 in repairs and needing $200,000 more that he doesn't have.
You have 20 seconds.
His lot is still moving, and he expects he will lose everything. The only option that was presented that did not include 4 huge variances to city code was one that staff deemed not feasible because it was not profitable for the developer. Staff is putting developer profits over existing residents. Please don't approve this project. Thank you.
You can't push the button yet.
Okay. You have 2 minutes.
I'm Luke Burson. I live at 25646 La Cima. I'm in the neighborhood above West Ridge Estates. And I just want to talk on two topics. The first one is safety in this community. And you just heard a concern about fire trucks. Well, I decided we should take a picture to show you what our community looks like when it's crowded. This is not a sign, but this was taken last week when a trash truck happened to be coming by. The cars are both parked legally. They're not pulled away from the side. But this is what it looks like with one SUV, a regular car, a trash truck, which is probably the size of a construction truck or a UPS truck, and one person getting by. Not a fire truck. They might be larger. So the EIR said traffic safety in this community is less than significant. This is what less than significant looks like. You can't let this happen to the community. Item number 2. The development is basically the same as 71 homes. This is the only picture we have. They didn't create a picture of 60 homes, but the staff report says this is basically the same. Can I approach?
No, we can see it from here.
Okay. Your property, if you lived here,
You have 10 seconds.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Burson. Okay, are there people out in the lobby? Okay, all righty. Okay, the next speakers are Sylvia Poulet, Jim Arndt, and Rob Gall. Please state your name and address, and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I have spoken before. My name is Sylvia Puel. I live at 28712 Avenida del Caballo, and I'm one of the original owners in Country View Estates. And I can't believe that we're here again and that this development is still under consideration. I will repeat some of the same items that others have spoken about because I feel they're really important. So many changes have to be considered and potential problems overlooked in order to approve this development. The significant changes in the zoning code, the variances that are needed. As we just heard, adding more traffic to an area that's already impacted and the narrow streets in our neighborhood, the many safety issues, and the tremendous concerns about the stability of the soil conditions. Please do not approve this development. It will not only have a negative impact on our neighborhood, but on the entire surrounding community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi guys, I didn't know we had 2 minutes. See what I can do. Hello again. My name is Jim Arndt. If you remember last month, I discussed what I could in 3 minutes in regards to the slope failure at my house, which is the same slope where SunPointe will put a 19-foot tall retaining wall behind me and other homes bordering the property. I spent the last 10 years spending every last cent to save my house. 18 piers driven, no push, 65 feet into soft clay before they finally stopped. I went to the city for help and advice. What's the best way to repair this? It should be common in the city, right? We know there's a lot of expansive issues. Staff provided no assistance. They said hire a structural engineer, knowing exactly what the engineer's answer would be. You can do nothing to retain the entire hillside. Even if I had a multi-million-dollar budget, rain will continue to percolate into the hillside above you, and the slope will continue to move as it expands and contracts. This is not uncommon. Foundation failure on Laguna Niguel is everywhere, and the city continues to approve risky projects like SunPointe, knowing failures won't show up for 10 years or more. Enough time when you, council is long gone, staff is gone, SunPointe is gone. It is now 60 new homeowners left to resolve, likely unsuccessfully bankrupting them in the process as well. This is occurring every day in neighborhoods all over Laguna Niguel, your city you are supposed to protect. No other city continues to take these risks, but staff and planning commission feel it is okay. As why change, especially now that you're so close to being built out? It's just 60 new families. Cut out a lot, but if you approve this project, no one should trust council, city planning, or staff. The geology, the homes on the south are built on the edge of a 150-foot slot canyon with a 19-foot retaining wall on top of that, with homes set back 10 feet from the edge.
You have 20 seconds.
Basically, cutting it short, this is going to put these 60 families at risk. The hydrology solution was tested. We had a pipe. It's a 1.5-inch sprinkler pipe driven 1,000 feet into the slope. There's 3 of them. They say it lowered the water table. The drilling company hinted at that you can't clear out a 1.5-inch pipe 1,000 feet. How do you push a 1/4 mile of cleaning high-pressure hose up a little tiny sprinkler pipe to clean it out?
Thank you, Mr. Arndt.
Do not approve this property. Thank you. There's better alternatives.
Okay, Mr. Gall.
Packet for each one of you, just with pictures, since I didn't know if I could use a slide.
Okay, if you could give those to the city clerk, she'll get them to us.
Robert Gold from 25922 Pasofino. I think I can live without the microphone.
No, we're recording the meeting.
Okay, beautiful. It's something new to learn every day, if it doesn't mind. So throughout this whole experience, I've just wanted to know what the truth was and to learn as much as I could about this project and see if it was something that was going to fit our city. What we've heard is a lot of either mistruths, half-truths, or not complete truths. So I just want to start with the packet on page 1. Actually, I'm sorry, if you go to page 3, this is the attractive nuisance that Jonathan pointed out last meeting, or 2 meetings ago. It actually is a paintball course that somebody has set up at what we call Ghost Town. Very creative, but at the same time, it wasn't just a dumping zone. It was actually intended as a plaything, which our kids have done throughout the years. If you don't mind skipping to page 4, that to me is the real attractive nuisance. We have a sign that's been out for almost 2 months now. I know you're redoing them, but nobody goes up to Ghost Town. Very few people do, but yet everybody drives by this sign every single day. I just wish we would focus on the things that were important. Next page is the gate that supposedly keeps people out. I don't think we'd have the problems we would with the trash, with graffiti, anything like that, if they just had a proper gate up there. But that's not my job. I don't keep track of that stuff. That's just an outside observation. Pages of traffic. This is just wandering on a Sunday as far as the amount of traffic we have parked on our street that's not really ours. And you'll see there's a note from the Sheriff's Department. There's also a note, I would appreciate if you park your car in front of your house, not mine. Thank you. This is the things we're looking forward to as far as having this development. This has kind of been a combination, or what I see as a battle of suits versus citizens. We've tried our best to get to the bottom of what's going on and hopefully educate a little bit on you guys, but we really, really need your help. We expect you guys to be gatekeepers of the city and do the best you can, the absolute best you can for Laguna Niguel with all of your wisdom and all of your staff. But honestly, this is not a good fit for Laguna Niguel. It's way too big. It's a mountain on top of a hill. And it potentially, as far as the risk, I don't know if Jim got to explain very well, but if you take a look at his house is an absolute disaster with $100,000 into it, and it's still sliding. And he's on the perimeter of what potentially is going to be SunPointe. So all I'm asking is for you guys to look into your heart and do what's right for Laguna Niguel. Thank you.
Next we have Debbie Gray, Mindy Dahlberg, and Bill Figuera, and Chris Logan.
Good evening, council members. My name is Debbie Gray. I live at 25946 Pasadena. I forgot my address for a minute. I'm here, of course, because of SunPointe. Mayor Genoway, Mayor Pro Tem Jennings, council members, city staff, neighbors, and friends. Over the last 2 years, Rob, Luke, and I have come to know many of you and have found the process of working with the city to be both frustrating and exhilarating. In some respects, we've made progress. In others, we are far from agreeing. While the reduction to 60 homes at SunPointe is a step in the right direction, it will still generate way too much traffic in the Country View community. There will still be a monstrosity of a hill backing up to my neighbors on the south side of Chariadas, and of greatest concern is the lack of a plan to monitor the hydroggers. Should the project be approved, we will live in fear, not knowing if those hydroggers are being maintained and when, if not if, but when the slope will fail. And exactly how far will a $10 million insurance policy go in replacing a neighborhood, our neighborhood? My greatest fear and what keeps me awake at night is that you will approve SunPointe this evening. And if that happens, I'm deeply concerned that there is nothing that states that the developer must work with our community. Should the agenda items be approved tonight, I'm asking that the communities adjacent to SunPointe be given a formal opportunity for additional input, especially when it comes to traffic calming, landscaping, final geological designs, and how the hydroggers will be monitored. We have been told that we can attend future Planning Commission meetings where some of this might be reviewed and discussed. I'm asking for more than just being a voice during public comment periods.
Yeah, 15 seconds.
My community needs to be an active participant in these discussions. I thank you for your time over these last couple of years and look forward to working together to keep Laguna Niguel the safe and beautiful community we have all come to love. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gray. Mindy Dahlberg.
Hi, I'm Mindy Dahlberg, and I live on Avenida del Caballo in Country View Estates. I live right near the entrance at Star, so I see a lot of the traffic on a daily basis, the normal traffic. So I worked with Luke actually on those pictures because that is my street, and it's a problem now with just a trash truck coming through. It's not that wide in certain parts. I was asked to read an email that came from another neighborhood member who couldn't be here because they were having surgery today. So it says, Dear Honorable Council members, as a parent of a 2.5-year-old and a 6-month-old, it is a pleasure to walk or ride bikes around the established, peaceful, and safe neighborhood of Country View Estates, allowing our children to explore their world and for us to get much needed exercise while meeting our community. 5 years of construction will increase the noise, dust, and heavy-duty traffic on our neighborhood streets. I am very concerned about the safety of our children on the streets, both during this period and with the increased traffic afterwards. The City of Laguna Niguel Master Plan creates spacious, family-friendly neighborhoods that are open and green. I understand that we can modify the plan, but I don't understand why we should modify it to accommodate denser housing projects with less green space behind enormous walls. Neither the gated community nor the higher density housing of the proposal fits within the neighborhoods around it. Family-friendly development of the area could be beneficial, but I urge the honorable members of the council to use common sense in considering to oppose modifying the plan to accommodate denser gated homes separated from the communities around it by high retaining walls, while simultaneously negatively impacting them and their families with higher traffic noise and dust, as well as asking to create a mountain of soil to accommodate the towering development.
That's your time.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Dahlberg, who is that email from? The name of the email?
That was from Marcus and Kelly Glenn.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is William Figueroa. I live on 28732 Chariadas. My wife and I have been here since day one. We have two concerns, among others, but increased traffic, I think it's going to be a real nightmare. I used to supervise truck drivers at one time when I was a manager of a chemical manufacturing facility. They were my worst group. They were constantly getting tickets, reckless driving, and so forth. Not all truck drivers are bad. My son used to drive a truck when he was going to college. My concern is who's going to monitor these trucks as they're going through the neighborhood with time constraints and so forth. And as it's been discussed, the streets are rather narrow. So that's a concern of mine and my wife's. The other thing is land movement. I see land movement continually in my yard. In the last 2 years, my back fence on my east side has separated 2 to 4 inches. The land is moving south. We have a wooden fence between my neighbor and myself, and the wooden fence is bowing on one end, almost about a 20-degree angle. This is the last 2 years. So my concern, if this is happening in my yard, what's going to happen in SunPointe, which has a worse reputation compared to where I live on Chariatas? So I ask you to please consider this project very seriously. I think it is unwarranted due to land movement and traffic and other issues that have been brought up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chris Logan. I live at 25572 Altura up in Westridge Estates. I want to take a minute in this public forum to thank you for your personal involvement individually and collectively in our community. I see you folks out in our neighborhood watch meetings. I see you at our opening for our pickleball courts. Your support for our police services, they do an amazing job. So I just want to thank you collectively for, this is the best city I've ever lived in, and in large part to your efforts. So thank you very much for that. I'm a retired battalion chief for the Los Angeles City Fire Department. When I was a captain, I personally responded to 4 hillside collapses, one where a house went down a hill, the other 3 where the hillside came down into the house. Mayhem, death, it was terrible. Our urban search and rescue task forces responded up to Santa Barbara, and you're all familiar with what happened in that hillside collapse. The thing it all had in common, the developers all said it was safe, lots of guarantees, the politicians all allowed the construction, and it was great until it wasn't. I don't know for the life of me why anybody would approve this. I can't figure out why anybody would approve this. No voters, no constituents, none of your constituents want this. And I just can't for the life of me. I just hope you side with your constituents and your voters in this issue. And to speak to Mr. Burson, in the Oakland fire years ago, which we're all familiar with, most of the deaths that happened at the Oakland fire happened on the streets, in the cars where people were trying to escape. So traffic is a serious issue in a large fire. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Logan. Okay, City Clerk Gomez, are there any more gold slips?
No, Mayor, there are no more slips.
Okay. Would the applicant like to speak? You may address any of the questions that were brought up.
I have a few comments that I'd like to share and
Please
address.
do.
Thank you very much. With respect to everyone who has commented this evening in opposition of the project, very experienced technical experts retained by the city have determined that the project can be built safely and without geotechnical or traffic problems raised as concerns. We believe SunPointe is designed and will prove to be safe and an attractive neighborhood, adding enhanced value and prestige to the neighborhood and the city. Both the city and we have retained truly top-drawer geotechnical consultants, ours being Stoney Miller, yours being Goffman, McCormick, and Urban. Both are experts in the soils and geology formations common to South Orange County and Laguna Niguel. Our civil engineers, Hunsaker and Associates, have been among the most trusted in Orange County for over 40 years. For over 40 years, and responsible for actually the design of much of West Ridge as well as Country View Estates back in the 1980s. I want to thank planning staff and the city CEQA consultants. The project underwent extensive environmental analysis and includes many mitigation measures incorporated as conditions of approval. But please note that the EIR concluded that no significant, unmitigatable impacts exist. City staff and its consultants held multiple workshops, responded to more than 1,200 comments through this process. Their efforts are much appreciated. Also want to thank the City Planning Commission for its 4-to-1 approval last year. Lastly, I want to thank you, Mayor Genoway, Mayor Pro Tem Jennings, Council Members Davies and Lindholm. Your comments at the January 16th City Council meeting, for your comments at the January 16th City Council meeting. Your strong and direct comments were heard and acted upon quickly. They altered our thinking, causing us to pause, to reevaluate the segments of the market demand, and then refocus our efforts and our professional consultants in a swift and expedited manner into the direction of the 60-unit modified site plan. We are asking you to consider a general plan amendment for SunPointe. We agree that the general plan amendment should not be taken lightly, but in this case, we believe you are completely justified in approving the GPA for the following reasons. The current general plan is based on a land formation of 1960. Equestrian estate lots are out of character for the current neighborhood. The location of the property is not conducive to estate lots, given that we're next to the Mercedes-Benz southbound 73, I-5, and the railroad tracks. The general plan has not been updated since 1992. Conditions have changed and new information is available that was not known in 1992. The city is expected to periodically review and update its general plan to reflect changing conditions. There have been 2 environmental documents, each showing no significant impacts. The geotechnical report has been conditionally approved and meets a 1.5 factor safety. Multiple alternatives were explored. The 60-unit modified project has the same density as Country View Estates and lower density than Westridge and the rest of Colinas de Capistrano. Thank you for your patience. We ask your support of the resolutions as prepared by staff.
Thank you. Okay, before we move into council comments, are there any questions by the council members?
I had one question of staff, if I could.
Okay.
There was discussion today or tonight about the hydroggers and the process, and I don't know if this is directed to Mr. Arunda or Dunya, sorry, or who it goes to, but I'd like to get that a little bit more clear, because I have heard a couple of different explanations about the hydroggers, and I want to find out what it is that's proposed for the property.
Councilmember or Mayor Pro Tem Jennings, are you asking for more detail on how they're used and why they are used?
I understand why they're used. The process, somebody referenced 1,000-foot, 1 1/4 inch pipe being pushed through the hillside, and I understand that the hydrogger is the machine that puts the pipe into the hillside, which leaves then a pipe that through which the water drains out. Is that correct?
Basically, it is. For more detail, I would ask the applicant to step forward and kind of walk through the details more of that.
Well,
but it's basically there to take care of the existing ancient water.
Well, I know that. My question is with respect to the word hydrogger. A hydrogger is not something that remains on site. It's the hydrogger is the machine that bores the holes that leaves it on site. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, that's the only question I had. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Davies, question?
Thank you. I do have a few questions. Okay, first off, if you could raise your hand if you live within the community we're talking that's going to be affecting you. Okay. Great, if you could put it back down. Now, I do know that this property was purchased and approved by the city, one of the very first ones, is that correct? For 35 homes, correct? How many of you would not support even having anything up there right now? Raise your hand. How many would support the 35 homes? Raise your hand. How many wouldn't? Okay, thank you very much. I do have some questions in regards to density. I know that the original, when we were at the 70 number, they were going to be more like in the 2,000 square foot. Is that correct? 2,500? I'm sorry, excuse me. The original one's 35. We're going to be more like the 4,000 square foot, right? Is that about right? And then we moved to the different number, and it was probably more like 2,500 square feet. Is that about right, where we're at right now?
For the size of the home? I think that's correct. And it's not, right now they're looking at a range.
Developer's sitting right behind you, shaking his head. Would you please come up to the microphone?
Yeah, I have just a couple questions. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Mallon.
Under the 71 lot site plan, the homes were ranging from 2,000 square feet to 2,500. Under the program right now, under the 60, we've increased that approximately 400 square foot per unit. So our range now is about 2,400 to 2,900 square feet.
Okay, and when we talk about density, I also look in regards to population. And when you had the larger ones, obviously, you're going to have more bedrooms and probably more people in those compared to what you have now. So overall, when I talk, you talk about traffic and you talk about extra people coming into these, would they pretty much balance out?
We've added one bedroom to the larger unit. So we had 3 and 4 bedroom units. Now we have 3, 4, and 5 bedroom units. Before we had a move up, or this is a move up product. So this buyer we expect to be more mature. The original product was for more of a first time family that was starting. There was also a move down component to that as well.
Okay, and then my other question, this is what I had brought up last time, is that there's a $10 million insurance if something happens here. To me, that was, that would cover a couple homes. And I just, so to me, it's almost like, why even have that insurance? Is there, can you explain that number?
Yeah, to give you a scale.
Please.
Country View Estates and West Virginia, actually all of Clinas de Capistrano, 923 units, have much more open space than we do. They have $1 million policy for all of their slopes, for all of the exposure that is potentially theirs. This is a policy that was part of a negotiation with the HOA. We would never go through the process and have a 33-year process or insurance product. It's not typical within the industry. What is typical in the industry is to have an owner-controlled insurance plan for a period of the construction period plus 10 years. But rarely is it at that dollar value.
So the HOA only has $1 million insurance right now?
All of Clinas de
Correct.
Capistrano,
The master.
correct, has $1 million policy for earth movement.
All right, thank you, I appreciate your
Thank
time.
you.
Okay, any more questions before we move on to council comments?
Yes.
Councilmember Lind.
Thank you. So the public knows that this originally has an overlay of 35 homes, and that's a condition, and that's already in the general plan. I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that. I wanted to ask the applicant how you address the traffic on that small street. If you come up and you've seen how wide that street is, how do you address that when you have construction vehicles? And how do you address that in the future? Mostly, how do you address that if you have construction vehicles?
There have been 2 comprehensive traffic analyses performed by the city's CEQA's consultant, by a licensed traffic engineer. They have worked with the city's engineering department, and the conclusion that has been consistent, and I've never heard any suggestion of difference, is that the design of those streets are designed basically to have parking on both sides as well as traffic lanes through the middle. So I can only tell you that my understanding of the design has been confirmed by the city engineer as well as 2 independent traffic reports and studies. And I defer to staff as well if they've got any additional information. But based on everything that we've seen, those streets are designed to be able to handle the traffic that's there right now and what is anticipated during a shorter construction period than 5 years, more likely than a 2.5 to 3 year period of time, but then into perpetuity for those 60 homes.
Okay, I understand that you're anticipating 660 daily trips, which is spread out over a period of time. My question to you is more about the construction vehicles during that period of time. I understand that you want to have them staged on site. That's a condition of the approval, that all construction vehicles will be staged on site at all times. Well, not at all times, they can come and go. But you've seen how narrow the streets are. And you only have one way in and one way out of this community.
Well, we actually have one way into or into SunPointe, but there's 2 access points that can be either from Churritos or from Caballo. So traffic can actually approach our gate or the property either through Caballo or Churritos. We expect that there will be both traffic, daily construction traffic that uses both of those streets. That traffic will get there in the morning. They will park on site, and then in the evening they will leave. The large equipment will come to the site, and it will stay on site until that activity is completed. And the majority of that large equipment is the grading equipment. So it moves on once and it moves off, and it's not a regular move on.
Right, thank you.
Any additional questions? Okay, so now we will move on to council comments. And I'll start. Okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Mallon and Mr. Shea and their team for all of their work on this and for listening to the concerns of our residents and having an additional workshop to present information and speak to our residents. And thank you to staff for your diligence in working with both the applicant and the residents. I know there's been many questions asked, and also by this council as well, and you've answered them well for us. As a city council, our responsibility is to our residents. And our responsibility is also adherence to our city's general plan on land use. And I think all of us have said, and I remember the late former Mayor Jerry McCloskey saying it quite frequently, is that those who have come before us in city council have done so well in the creation of our city that now it's our job not to mess things up. And I believe changing the general plan or the zoning in this instance would mess things up. When you enter Laguna Niguel, you know you are in Laguna Niguel. Our city is beautiful, and that is by design. It is the well thought out general plan and land use that is the design of our city. Zoning and land use is like a puzzle, and the pieces need to fit together to be successful. The approved uses for the land and development that surround the area in question was designated as such because of the existing zoning and number of approved units for the property that we are discussing. The property that we're talking about is not off on its own. It is surrounded by an area that has already been built, and approved land use was based upon the existing zoning. To just about double the number of residential units is like taking, and excuse me for using this analogy, but I like to shop for shoes. It's like taking a size 10 foot and trying to put it in a size 6 shoe. It causes pain all around. I'm not against increased density. We have a specific place for that in our city. It's called the Gateway. The Gateway fits very well in the overall plan for our city's land use. and increasing the number of housing units that we know is needed here in South County. But as the City Council, we are the guardians of the city's general plan, and changing or amending the general plan should only be done when the change is of greater benefit to the city and its residents than the original plan. Increasing the density of a planned neighborhood from 35 homes to 60 homes is not of greater benefit to our city. That is almost double the number of homes and double the traffic, and by the developer's report, an additional 235 vehicle trips daily in and out of a neighborhood that is in an area of our city that we already know to be congested. While I commend the developer on coming up with an alternative plan, I cannot approve the change of our general plan because this change is not of greater benefit to our city and its residents, and in fact is a negative to some of our residents. You're pointing. Are you pointing for you or are you pointing for him? Who would like to go next? Mayor Pro Tem.
He's not going to use ladies first.
Get that on. I'm happy to let you all go first if you like, but that's fine. Thank you very much, everyone. I guess let me start at the beginning. This has been an inordinately long journey for me through this process, as it has been for you. Since the first day that SunPointe was mentioned as part of this city, I was then sitting on the Planning Commission and heard many meetings about that. I was then elected to City Council, heard many meetings, have sat through many meetings about that. It has been before us on many occasions, and the amount of information that I've had on this one surpasses any other agenda item that's ever been before us, probably because it keeps coming back, and the EIRs and the books and the materials and the revisions are unlike anything else I've seen in my tenure on the city, or with the city. I started asking myself, why is that the case? What's going on here that makes this so different? And I commented last time that it is difficult to be last. And this project really is unique because it is one of the last pieces of undeveloped property in the city. I've driven this city, and specifically with respect to this project, to get my head around what we've previously built, what it already looks like, who we are as a city. And there are many, if not dozens, of other properties that I think you would probably want far less on this property than the one that's being proposed. And so what I'm seeing is an unprecedented effort by our residents to make themselves heard. And I truly appreciate it. I was, Ms. Toole, I have to make sure that I address your comment. The words whining and NIMBY are not in my backyard did not come out of my mouth, and I don't feel that way. So to the extent they were taken that way, please know that that isn't how I feel. In fact, what I feel is quite the opposite of that. I am very much in favor of the residents who've spoken out, because your comments, your position matter greatly to me. I take them very seriously. I think about them, and if you ask my wife, I probably stay up too late, worrying about them as well. So I don't take that as whining. In fact, as a bit of an aside, I was talking to a group of Boy Scouts about this room, and they were asking for a bit of a tour, and the question was, what's the most important thing in this room? And they all guessed, but the one that I came up with was that podium, because so many people have lost their lives for the ability for you all to address your government, your friends, your neighbors, as we as council members, to talk to us about this. And I value that right above everything else. So when you speak at that podium, trust me, you have a council member and a mayor pro tem that listens to you, and I greatly appreciate it. I've also heard from the developer. I've met with them just like I've met with you. I've asked them the tough questions. I've required of them to submit reams and reams of paper to me for my analysis, along with the rest of the council members. And at some point, I have to start calling the balls and strikes on what I'm seeing. I started back at the 35 units and asked myself, where did that come from and what was it? It was an inheritance by the city of a number that had been approved for somebody that wanted to build that long before there was a city. The county approved 35 units, and there it was, and it sat idle for a long time. There was a misconception that many, many projects had been denied on that property, and that isn't true because none had been applied. So the concept of 35 units, I look to be a bit amorphous. Certainly, I don't think 35 units was the best use of that property back then, and I suspect it isn't now. So then I asked myself, well, why were we being asked to put 70 units on the property? Because I frankly will tell you, I thought that was too many, and I wasn't sure what was going on there, and I wanted some more questions. And I asked those questions, and they were hard questions, and I got responses from the applicant that they were willing to listen to what we said, and they were willing to recast what they had done to create something that was like its neighbors, because at the time it wasn't. And what I wanted out of that project was something that looked like its neighbors, that was roughly the same size and density as its neighbors, that was truly an extension of Crown Valley Estate, or the CVE. So the idea was is if you drive down the street, you would see houses that sort of look like your houses, that are the same size roughly as your houses. And in development terms, the word density is a loaded word. This is a low density by definition. I mean, it's indisputably low density because that's what it is. It is a low density residential unit that if had it been built contemporaneously with its neighbors, nobody would have had any discussion about it. But it wasn't. It came along later. So we have an applicant that has answered the questions that we've asked of it, has accommodated and heard what you asked for, and they certainly were taken to task by me and some of my colleagues about what we expected of it. And I got answers that started ticking off the boxes of things that I care about. I care about density because I don't want any more of that than we already have. But I also had questions about the environment, and I needed to know about the geology. I met personally with the city's geologist, and we went through all of it. And I needed tough answers to tough questions about, is this thing going to move? What's the problem with the houses that are already there? And there are problems with those houses, I guess. But this is a different piece of lot. I'm told that this land is actually more stable than many of the residences that we have in Laguna Niguel, which is surprising to me as well. It's built to 2018, or whenever it actually gets built, it'll be built to those standards, which is far better than the house that I own and perhaps some of the others. But I look at safety, I look at what's there, and it's difficult. Then I weigh that against my friends and my neighbors and the people that live there, and those of you who I've met through this process, and all of you who I now see your faces, and we smile at each other at grocery stores and events and concerts and things like that because I know you. I want you to know that I hear you on this and that your voice has mattered to me, but at some point I have to decide. I don't believe that this is a great exception. I believe it is in keeping with what the rest of Laguna Niguel looks like, or I wouldn't allow it. In fact, I'll go a step further and tell you I think it looks a lot better than a lot of the other places that have been built in town, that if I'd been sitting on this dais 20 years ago when they went up, that might not have happened. And so I have very high standards on what these things look for, and I told the applicant that what they came up with last time I didn't like, and I wouldn't have approved it. And as they kept approving it, making it more like its neighbors, I kept moving in the direction of trying to come up with a solution. And so that's our job. I have to follow the rules. And one of the rules is that if I have applicants in front of me that have satisfied the criteria that the city hears, I have to find reasons to say yes to that if it's correct, and I believe that it is. And so while I have nothing but deference for the residents there, I also have deference for the process, and I believe that this project, more than any other, has gone through the lengths that it needed to go through to get the numbers where they need to be. And for that reason, I would support the development. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Lindholm.
Thank you. First, I want to thank everyone for coming. I know it's time out of your lives, and for almost all of you who've spoken. It's about your home, your family's home. So I do take that all into account. I do take the process into account. I do agree with both my colleagues, with our mayor and our mayor pro tem, on what has occurred, on the hard questions, on the concerns for our citizens, and that the development is much improved over the 71 unit. The 71 unit for me was very poor. There was no way I could approve that. My problem on this particular, I will compliment the developer because I had a long list. I haven't spoken to either group personally, but communicated my concerns. And there were a lot of concerns I had on the 71 unit. It just, it had hammerheads. It was not a great design. It did not have livability for the people who would be buying that. But the concerns remain for me. The location of where this is one street in. I know there are two streets. There's One Store Drive that comes in. It's got a really tough hairpin turn. And then the other street where the residents are, which would probably be the main access. That's my biggest problem here, is that there's not two ways into this community. It's a very narrow street. It wasn't designed to accommodate the traffic load that would be there during the construction period. You could probably work with it after they were constructed. It would have been a good plan to have these done first, and then your development second. So that's my concern for the residents, is the small street that you have that's the access. And I do know how construction drivers drive, and it's not admirable most of the time. And there are families that live on that street. So that's a major concern for me. In terms of the development itself, the height and length of the retaining walls are everywhere. There's some very, very significant retaining walls throughout this development. There's not poured-in-place pylons. There's not driven pile drivers. It's based on retaining walls. We do live in Laguna Niguel, and we do have expansive soil. And as many of you know, and the homeowner already has cracks in their walls, which is not caused by this development, it exists. It exists within our city. So I'm concerned about the retaining walls. I know there's the civil engineer stamp that would go on it. I just think this development with this many homes would compound the existing design problems that are there. That this street, this one access road, is not designed to accommodate that community. I'm additionally torn, though, as you've heard from my fellow colleagues, that they are saying, and that might be of benefit to you, that what they are going to do might stabilize that hill. And that would be a worthwhile part of the project. So you can see the quandary that we have before us. It has to do with trying to find out what is the best thing for you, for the residences. If the stabilization is indeed as they say, that would be helpful, but the impacts would be significant to me on those homes that line that street and the access. So because of those reasons, I am not supporting it at this time.
Thank you. Councilmember Davies.
Thank you. I tend to be pretty quick, and I can tell you when I came in here, I still didn't know where I was going, because again, there are good reasons both ways. Before I hit that point, though, I do want to address Jonathan. Is this still there? Is there a reason why it hasn't been removed? Because to me, this is a fire risk hazard all the way, that this is sitting here. You've got dry brush over here. So I'm just wondering, is there a reason why it hasn't been removed? We could ask the developer. It's your property.
the property owner?
They set up a paintball. It's been there for some time, I believe. My concern of this being a major fire hazard.
We'll get that removed
Do you know when?
in the next several days.
Okay,
Thank
I
you.
appreciate
Yeah.
that, especially when we're talking about fires. It shouldn't be there, and I appreciate that. If we need to secure the area a little bit more, so be it. And so, you know, I sit there, and again, this development was, started out the whole thing. And all of you that purchase homes were aware of this, and basically all of you raised your hand saying, we're okay. We understood that when we bought, we were here, there could be 35 units, 35 homes coming in, and you understand that and you support that. And for me, I put myself in your place too. And if I bought something like that, and down the line, I don't care how long it took, someone said, listen, you know what, we're changing this now to work where we have to, I'd be very upset. You know, it's like perhaps having something, and it's a small daycare next to me, and it was gonna be built, and it never happened, and all of a sudden now there's a school there because of the room was there. It's not what I bought into, it's not what you did. And then when I look at the photo too that we have in regards to the height of the walls and things like that, that wasn't going to be your view either. I'm assuming you knew what your view was going to be with the proposed development as 35 units, going into that. I also have concerns with the traffic, as Councilmember Lindholm was talking about, especially when you come in here. When you look at that picture, I mean, a picture's worth 1,000 words, and that just tells it right there. I have concerns whether there's development here or not. I think that needs to be looked into, and whether or not that, you know, those cars are coming from across the street from the apartment building, but maybe Traffic and Transportation needs to look at that, whether it's parking on one side only or whatever it means, you know, it has to do, but that needs to be addressed. The bottom line is I support the right for development as it was zoned for 35 homes, but I cannot support this as it is right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I will ask for a motion on each item, and we will take a roll call vote for clarification. We held the public hearing under item A, so we can proceed with item B. Can I have a motion to approve item B? And that would be the resolution certifying the EIR. Is there a motion to approve item B? No motion to approve item B? Okay, so then
Okay, well, let's get specific on this.
Right.
Maybe we can have the city attorney and explain for the audience, because we have 1, 2, 3,
Yeah,
4.
we were
We
gonna-
have 5 different things
yes,
here.
we were gonna vote on each item separately.
I understand, but I think for the audience and for us, we need to know.
What it is.
This is just certification of the EIR itself.
Okay. City
So-
Attorney Dixon?
Yes, Mayor Genoway, the first item is not approval of the project or any aspect of it. It's a review of and certification of the EIR as being complete. So the question would be whether or not you agree to certify it or don't agree to certify it.
Okay.
I have a question. May I ask a question? Okay, so if this EIR, could this be used for a 35-unit development project?
I believe it could be.
So this just says the EIR is incomplete. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and it's certifying the EIR. It is not approving the project.
Correct.
That will be done in subsequent motions.
Okay.
Thank you for the clarification. I would make the motion to approve the EIR.
Okay, so it's been moved to approve the EIR. Can you please read item B?
Sure. Adopt resolution number 2018-4X, sustaining planning commission certification and certifying environmental impact report EIR 17-1 SCH number 201-606-1037, and adopting associated mitigation monitoring and reporting program.
Okay, so that has been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Jennings. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councilmember Lindholm. City Clerk Gomez, can we please have a roll call vote on that item?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Lindholm?
Yes.
Councilmember Davies?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jennings?
Yes.
And Mayor Genoway?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. The next item is to approve item C. And C is the resolution approving the general plan amendment. Is there a motion to approve item C? There's no motion to approve item C. Okay, so that fails for lack of a motion. Okay. The next item is item D. Item D is the introduction of the ordinance. Is there a motion to approve item D? No motion to approve item D. That item fails. Next item is item E. Item E is the resolution on the, referring to the tentative tract map. Is there a motion to approve item E?
I have a question regarding this one, Mayor, and it's to the city attorney. This question is to the city attorney. Would item E, the referral back to the planning commission, is that only if it was for the units as planned, or would it have to? Does that also apply to the 35-unit project?
I would interpret it as applying to the project, the 60-unit project.
60 unit, that's what I thought. So to the extent that anything relating to 35 units was going to be proposed, it would have to go back through the regular planning process.
That's my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve item E, the tentative tract map?
No.
Fails due to lack of a motion. Okay, City Attorney Dixon, is there anything else we need to do on this agenda item?
No, not at this time. I do want to take a look at a couple of things relative to whether there should be some consideration of adopting some findings. I don't believe so, but I do want to look at that, so we may bring something back in the future.
Okay, but we are finished with this agenda item for tonight? Okay, all right. Now we move on to City Manager.
Can we have a 5-minute
Actually,
break?
since we're having an exodus, we will have a 5-minute break for council members and staff. We will come back at, what is that, 8:50. our next item is City Manager item number 1, and that is the Coastal Greenbelt Authority appointment. Interim Assistant City Manager, Management Services Director Bell, please provide the staff report.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Tonight before you is a recommendation to change the the representative of the city on the Coastal Greenbelt Authority. The Coastal Greenbelt Authority was founded in 1991 with the Laguna Laurel Purchase Agreement, and in the past, city council members have taken turn as non-voting members of this organization. Recently, the organization changed their meeting time to 3 p.m. in the afternoon. And in general, the topics that are discussed are park-related in nature. And for that reason, we are recommending that the Parks and Recreation Director, Allison Giglio, be appointed to serve as the city's representative to Coastal Greenbelt Authority, and the alternate be our Recreation Manager, Ron Rivera. And if you have any further questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Question? Are the other cities represented by their elected council members? Help me out there. Is this the one-
Some are and some aren't. Laguna Woods is. Irvine sends a staff member. Newport sends a staff member. Laguna Beach, the meeting that I went to, Laguna Beach had no representatives there, and they actually are voting members. There's a couple of environmental groups that are there. They're not council members. They're leaders of their environmental groups. So it's a mixed bag. Lisa Bartlett is also part of the group, but she sends a person
And
out
this
of her
is a
office.
non-voting position?
This is a non-voting position. I asked them what they expected the city's input to be, and they said, well, just to support us, to help write grant letters in our favor, and so that you understand that we have our parks that are nature-oriented, and then you have your own parks that you do other kinds of activities at.
Move the staff recommendation.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Lindholm, seconded by Councilmember Davies. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, abstain, motion carries. Okay, item number 2, it's the filling of the vacancy on the Parks and Recreation Commission. City Clerk Gomez, please provide a staff report.
Yes, good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. As you know, back in January of 2018, we went through the process of conducting interviews again for the Parks and Recreation Commission due to the resignation of Mike Churchill. And at that time, there was a list created. We reached out to the members that were on that list to see if they were interested in another position that became vacant by Nadeem Kaniza. He resigned from the Parks and Recreation Commission effective immediately, and his term expires December 31st of 2018. So at this time, just like in January, you have the option to appoint a person whose name is on the list of qualified applicants, or you can conduct a new recruitment for the position and then appoint one of the qualified applicants to fill the vacancy. In this case, the recruitment and appointment process could be completed by August 2018 because we would have to advertise. Or you could leave the position vacant until the next regular recruitment. And in this case, the next recruitment will take place in October of 2018. And then the appointment would be effective on or after January 1st of 2019. So on the staff report, as you can see, the second page, all the people that are on this list have expressed an interest to serve if you decide to appoint one of them to the Parks and Recreation Commission.
Okay, thank you, City Clerk Gomez.
You're welcome.
I am in favor of appointing a person. I think we've gone through this recruitment process a couple of times, and it's important to have someone on that commission because I know the June meeting they've had to cancel due to lack of quorum, and it also gives someone, gives us the opportunity to see how different community members participate on a committee, but also I think it's important to have a fifth voice and maybe bring in another dynamic that's not represented. So I would be in favor of option 1, appointing a person. I don't know what is that the consensus of the council?
I concur with the same. I'd like to appoint one of the individuals that I see on the list.
Actually, we went through this before in another commission, and because this is a whole different thing, if I'm going to appoint somebody, I want to have them interviewed. I don't want to just pick from here, because we did that with another one. I think we had an open position, and we didn't want to just go and look at a name because we didn't know, we didn't have time to ask some questions, especially when it comes to this committee. So personally, I'm okay for appointing, but I would actually like to have an opportunity to, what was that?
Well, these on here, we've already interviewed them twice.
We interviewed them.
This is the
Twice.
second
We interviewed
time.
them back in maybe November, December timeframe.
That's November 27th.
And then we
28th.
interviewed them a month later when Mike Churchill had resigned.
Yes.
So
in
these people
January.
we've interviewed twice. I know I have my notes from those interview processes.
I think your recollection was about this position, so.
Yes,
yeah,
it was Parks and Recreation.
Yeah.
I'm actually
We went
going to
through it
hold, I personally would go, and I'm keeping it vacant until we go into commission for the next year.
And I agree with Councilmember Davies to just keep the position open, and that way when we're going through and doing all the appointments, you see everybody and you have the opportunity there. So I'm more for leaving it vacant.
Okay, well, this appointment is just through the end of this year, so it's a few months. But again, I feel that we should have that fifth member on the Parks and Recreation Commission. Is there a motion to approve option 1?
I move to appoint a person now.
Okay, I second that.
Okay.
Or were you going to second that?
No,
You'll
go ahead and second it.
that?
I
Actually,
didn't.
I don't like seconding as the chair.
That's okay.
So you're
yeah.
going to second that?
You can, no, you can second it. I was
Okay.
going to say that I do remember these. I liaise to that committee, and they are doing some important things, and they do have a number of meetings between now and then. I am concerned about the lack of a consensus. I'm sorry, a quorum. Consensus as well, by the way, but a quorum for the remainder of the meetings, and I think it is prudent to put somebody on there, especially since I might not have done that, frankly, if we hadn't been through the interview process twice already, but because we have, and these people have been willing to serve, I think it's one of the things that we should at least give them a chance to do when there is a vacancy. So I'd support the appointment.
Okay, so it's been moved by Councilmember Minigar, seconded by myself to approve option 1, to appoint a person who is on this list.
And may I have a second suggestion? That would be if anyone that happened to be on the list is present, maybe we can have him introduced or have a self-introduction. There are 10 people on the list.
Okay, well, first, let's deal with the motion that's on the floor. So the motion on the floor is to approve option number 1. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
So Councilmember Lindholm abstained. Councilmember Davies is a no. The 3 of us are a yes. So motion passes. So Councilman Minigar, your comment?
My comment was if anybody in the audience happened to be on the list of the 10 individuals, I would like to just have them to come to the podium and introduce themselves, just to see who's eager to be a part of the commission.
Well, before we do that process, I want to add a question. Were these people asked to attend tonight? I don't want to put anybody in a bad place that isn't here, so.
They
so
were, and
They were invited, you mean?
they were invited. They were invited. There was a woman here earlier that said she was here for the commissions, but she walked away before I could get her name. And I don't see her, but I know she was here.
Do you know the name, Madam Gomez?
No, she walked away before I could ask what her name was because they were bringing public comment cards for the other items. But it's possible they might have tried to come, but because of the parking situation, you know, with the election and everything, they might not have had the opportunity to even find a parking. I don't know. But they were invited.
Okay, so we have one member of the, is there only one member who's on? There's 2 people who are on this list. So would you like to address the council and tell us your interest, which is what Mr. Minigar is asking for?
Oh, certainly, yeah. Well, as a longtime resident, of course, I've been very much involved with the youth and the parks And my activity, I've been a Parks and Rec Commissioner once, Traffic Commissioner once, and so I have quite a bit of experience in working with Allison and the staff. And I also have very much experience with the Botanical Preserve. Of course, you all know me with the Boy Scouts, American Legion, and the Rotary Club. I have a very broad knowledge, and I'm an engineer, so I can give technical knowledge. And I have a great enthusiasm to maintain our parks and rec for the enjoyment of our citizens. And I'll maintain that as best I can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Joshua Furmark. Thank you again for the opportunity and to be invited here to speak to council members and Mayor Genoway. As a new member of the community, I've been part of Laguna Niguel now for about 2 years. I have a sincere interest in protecting Laguna Niguel's parks and conservation areas. And also being a civically minded member of the community, I'd like to be able to be engaged on a regular basis and be part of the Commission's efforts to keep this city beautiful and focus on one of the many reasons why I became attracted to Laguna Niguel and why we moved here as a family. I have a public sector background. I relocated from Chicago and have a lot of experience working in the public sector. I just want to bring a different point of view to the Commission and introduce my body experience and knowledge managing large projects and managing large budgets to keep this city really beautiful. So it's just really a simple reason why I want to be part of the commission, just to be engaged, to work with good people, and to be able to give back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your interest. We appreciate both of you being here tonight. Okay, so now that we've decided to appoint a person, is there a nomination? Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I too went back and looked at my notes on the prior interviews, and I was looking at the makeup of the commission, and Commissioner Knieze, when he was there, fulfilled a certain role that was very important to us. He was our trail guy, as I recall. So that was a voice that we're going to miss. I did recall I had each, and by the way, thank you very much to both of you who came tonight and stuck around for a very long meeting for that. Appreciate it. I did recall having favorable opinions about several. Mr. Austin, Steve Austin, stood out as one that we had good marks on. The two gentlemen that were here tonight, I had good marks as well. So if somebody, I guess I'd rather hear from the rest of the council and see what their positions are if you have one. But other than that, those are my comments so far.
Okay, well, it's difficult because all of the people on here, I went through my notes and they all had something to offer the committee. But again, looking at the makeup, and you try to balance the makeup of the committee with all of the needs, the Parks and Recreation needs throughout our city, and try to have different groups represented so that the committee isn't skewed one way or another. And I know we have senior representation, we have people who are involved with different youth programs and people with young children, but I did review my notes, and Steve Austin had different groups that are not represented on the committee, and I think that representation may add something, maybe make it a more comprehensive view of the parks and recs in our city and a more robust discussion. And I know that he was very high in our ranking for all of the committees. And if we had one more slot on any of our committees, that's where he would have gone. Any comments? No. Okay, Mr. Minigar.
Well, I think if we need to make a determination between the two individuals that happen to be present at the chambers versus the other 8, I think we have to discuss that to see if it's going to be fair and equitable to everyone, or we appoint one of the 2 individuals that.
Well, we've also been discussing all of the people on this list. So Mayor Pro Tem and I were just discussing the need to balance the committee members as far as the different representations that they have. So is there a nomination for anyone on this list?
Me personally, I would say Mr. Dennis Mulvaney.
Okay, is there a second? Councilmember Davies?
I was actually going to make a quick comment, if I may,
Oh.
but unless you want to get a second. I was just going to say, the 2 of you are on this committee, and I respect the fact that you've been this, you've watched what's going on. You know that one portion that's missing. I appreciate both gentlemen, but I would actually go towards your guidance, because this is your committee. It's just like when Councilmember Minigar and I are on traffic and transportation, we can see what's missing up there, and I value your opinion.
Just a quick comment, because I wasn't here for your interviews with the boards and commission. That's one other reason to not be participating in this. And the other is I'm a little concerned with how the procedure's going. That if we notify these people, or if they got a phone call, or some were here, or some weren't there, or you have a candidate you want, I would lean towards your knowledge.
Can I speak to that for a second? Because I share it. This is weird, and I realize it's strange. I'm willing to do this, but we've already, did we cancel the June Parks and Rec Commission meeting? So there's not another meeting until July? All right. Thanks. My only concern was is that we had a inordinately long meeting tonight that I wouldn't really have expected a lot of people to stick through to get to here. And my thought might be that if we have the benefit of some time, that we set this down for at least one more meeting and invite these people back, just so we can say hello and thank you for coming. And if they don't want to come, that's fine. I don't want to push that. But to council, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Lindholm, it really has been a long day. I want to give some deference to that. I didn't realize, frankly, when we were doing this, that you weren't here. I didn't know that. So forgive my memory. So with all deference to the process, Mayor, I think it might be, and I would prefer to stand it down for one meeting. Put it on the, is it June 19th meeting?
June 19th is our next meeting.
I would second that.
Okay, so we've already approved appointing a person on the list.
That's right.
So what we would do is appoint that person at the June 19th meeting. City Clerk Gomez, if you could please invite them all, and maybe if they were given maybe 1 minute to address the council on why they would like to be appointed. And now that meeting, excuse me, I'm sorry, the June 19th meeting will be before the next Parks and Recreation Commission meeting. So we won't be missing a second one.
I could provide the applications as well in advance, so I can distribute them this Friday with your mail.
Okay, so
you
the
can review
consensus of the council is that we will appoint at the June 19th meeting. All of the people on this list will be invited to come to that council meeting and address the council for 1 minute. 1 minute, and that you will also provide us, if we still don't have copies of the applications with their former applications, no need for them to be filling out a new application, but you can provide that to us.
I would also just, as an accommodation, because Mr. Furmark and Mr. Mulvaney were here tonight, I don't think they should have to come back if they don't want to. You did yeoman's work in showing up tonight, and I appreciate it.
And staying, too.
And staying.
We noticed that.
So that's good on you. I appreciate it. That's good.
Oh, come on, go for the points, Okay, so we all know what we're doing on that one? Okay, moving on. Our last business item is finance item number 1, and that is the adoption of the proposed fiscal year 2018-19 city budget and 5-year capital improvement program. City Manager Ridge, please provide a staff report.
So the last item of the night. So Mayor Pro Tem and council members, City Clerk Gomez, can you cue up the PowerPoint presentation? Thank you. So it is my honor to present to you the proposed budget for fiscal year 2018-19 and all related actions necessary to implement the budget. The budget is balanced and reflects your priorities of commitment to enhance the quality of life for all community members in the city. The budget provides for strategic core services that strengthen neighborhoods while prioritizing public safety and capital investments in our park, amenities, and our infrastructure. The total proposed budget before you tonight is $72.7 million, funding services, programs, and capital projects for the benefit of Laguna Niguel residents and business owners. The operating portion of the budget is $42.8 million, which represents a 5% increase from the current year's operating budget. The majority of the increase is related to additions to the sheriff's contract and the overall growth in associated personnel cost for both police and city employees. The proposed one-year capital improvement budget is $29.9 million, representing a substantial commitment to capital projects over the upcoming year. I'm sorry, I skipped one slide. If we can go back to the second slide. This was probably the part where we have to give kudos to our finance department. The budget preparation process, there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes with it. So it really starts in early spring where the finance department starts their process of forecasting what our revenues are going to be, what our expenditures are going to be. They prepare the packets for each one of the operating departments to fill out. And then next, the operating departments have to complete those packages. They have to identify key performance indicators, which was an addition for this year's budget. They have to put together their current year achievements, their future initiatives, and then from that, we create the first draft of the proposed documents. Then in May, we hold budget hearings with the city manager and with each individual department. From that, we get the proposed second draft of the budget. That is the proposed budget that was placed before you and the public on May 10th at the public budget workshop. It was a very robust workshop. It lasted almost 4 hours. And as a result of that, we have taken your direction and input that we received at that workshop, and it has been incorporated into the proposed budget that's before you tonight. And I'll skip 3 because I already talked about that and go to the next one. So this is delving down into the proposed operating budget of $42.8 million. Taking a closer look, you can see that the largest component is our proposed funding for police services, which represents about 37% of our operating budget. The next largest component is for our Public Works Department, which represents roughly 30% of the operating budget, followed by Parks and Rec at 13%, and then General Government, which is comprised of City Attorney, Clerk, Administration, and Finance, and lastly, our Community Development at 8%. I'm not going to go into detail on each one of the departments because that was covered at the budget workshop. Looking at the $29.9 million that is proposed for our capital improvement project next year, you can see that the bulk of it is planned for our exciting construction that's going to be happening at Crown Valley Community Park, where we're going to have a new community center started. And the next largest investment is for our streets and roads, with many projects planned for medians, monuments, resurfacing, bus shelters, a trolley. And then also concluded is over $1 million in upgrades to playground equipment, replace of turf, and much more. For a detailed listing of all of the projects, you can see in the budget document pages 179 through 181. Now you're going to asking, how are we going to pay for the $72.7 million budget? This is a breakdown of where our funding sources come from for that budget. The largest chunk, 57%, is from our general fund. And the general fund is the fund that's used to account for revenues that aren't specifically designated to be accounted for by any other fund, and they're not legally restricted as to use. The second largest source of the funding is coming from the amounts that were prudently set aside to specifically fund capital improvements. As you can see, all other sources of funding that will fund this proposed budget before you are relatively small. They include gas tax, Measure M2, air quality funds, CDBG, along with a variety of grants. So you can see from the funding sources that preserving and enhancing our general fund is vital, as it does serve as our primary sources of funding. So taking a closer look at the general fund revenues, we have 3 major revenue streams for our general fund. The largest one is our property tax revenue. The city receives from the county a share of the 1% basic levy. As you can see from the first two columns, we are anticipating a growth in the revenue stream from the current year, represented in the dark blue, to the proposed year, which is the lighter blue. The proposed increase of 4% is based on increases in assessed valuation, making our proposed property tax revenue $15.6 million for next year. The next column represents our sales tax revenue. The city's share is 1% of the purchase price on tangible items. Our projections for this revenue stream anticipate a slight decrease of $93,758 from the current year, and that's based on the different revenue trends that we've been monitoring. We will continue to monitor this valuable source of revenue throughout the year and adjust if need be mid-year. And then the third largest stream of revenue is our property tax in lieu of vehicle license fee. And we are anticipating about a 3.4% increase in that, which equates to about $205,000. While we only appropriate for a single fiscal year, the city does engage in capital improvement planning beyond the one-year horizon, as reflected in the detailed 5-year CIP. This slide displays the outlying years' planned use of resources. The strategic planning provides better management over large projects, as well as routine replacements, and establishes accountability on the part of our project managers. As mentioned earlier, as a result of the workshop, all of the requested follow-ups have been completed, and I don't need to read them. You can certainly take a look at them, but those were the requests that were made of staff at the public budget workshop. So to talk about any changes to do with organizational structure or staffing that is in the proposed budget before you, the only ones that are in there include an elimination of one department. Currently, we have a Department of Management Services, and we also have a Department of the City Manager. Those are being collapsed into the administration department. This will allow us to take advantage of some existing vacancies to utilize different classifications that will better align with our administrative needs, while also saving an anticipated $127,000. The only full-time addition in the entire budget, full-time employee addition, is for our Parks and Rec department, and that is to provide the needed capacity to gear up for the Crown Valley Community Center programming. And then finally, there is a need to create a salary schedule for 3 different part-time positions to better reflect the nature of their responsibilities. One of our other obligations, as required by California Constitution, is that we have to establish a maximum limit for appropriations at the beginning of each fiscal year. This limit's referred to as the GAN limit, and it's calculated by a formula. As you can see, our proposed appropriations amount is significantly below the legal limit. And then also, beginning in 2004, the city leaders adopted a financial reserve policy which sets forth the requirements for a number of different reserves, such as a contingency reserve, a compensated absences reserve, other post-employment benefits reserve, and a reserve for pre-funding capital assets and infrastructure replacement. The policy is required to be reviewed annually, and at this time there are no recommended revisions to it. So what is before you tonight is to adopt the resolution that will approve the operating budget and the capital improvement program, to receive and file the 5-year CIP, to adopt a resolution that will adjust the staffing levels and the salaries for the city positions, and then adopt the resolution that does establish the appropriation limit. And the final step that would need action is approving the existing city's financial reserve policy. And if you have any questions, you have staff here. And I certainly want to thank your leadership on the development of the budget and recommend that you take the necessary actions listed above to approve the proposed budget. It maintains all current programs and service levels while providing a significant investment in the city's capital asset. The budget has been developed around conservative financial practices and philosophies that have historically served the city well.
Thank you, City Manager Ridge. We know a lot of work goes into this, and appreciate staff taking all the comments and suggestions from the council into consideration. I know I've gone through my list and looked through, through the weeds on here, and they've been incorporated two questions I have, and one is, I know we had asked you for a list of the memberships that this council has, and you did provide that. Could you please provide us also with a schedule of when those memberships are due for renewal? So if any council members have comments or want that membership reviewed, they know when they need to get to speak to you about that. Because I know they're not all the end of the year, and some of them we may want to reconsider our membership in.
Absolutely, Mayor, we can do that for you. I actually do have two right now that are up for renewal. I did receive the invoice for the Orange County Human Relations, and I believe I received the invoice for SCAG. So since all of the memberships right now are under my signing authority, I would need your direction as to whether you wanted to move forward with those two. And that's something I can follow up with you later.
Okay, yeah, and I would say let's move forward with the memberships unless a council member thinks otherwise, and then they will be talking to you. Okay. Okay, also another question I had is, at two of the council meetings, Mrs. Mulvaney was here requesting a shade structure over the pool. What is the status of that review?
We haven't completed the feasibility study to look into the potential of a shade structure. We're almost complete with it preliminarily. We are running into some challenges to implement something like that. The first one, of course, is it's very cost prohibitive. The estimates that we're receiving range from $250,000 to $300,000 to just do a shade structure over a portion of the pool. The other thing is a safety issue that has been pointed out to us by Captain Adams, and that is with a partial shaded area, it does change the lighting for swimmers, and that's a competition pool. As they're swimming, it can impact their vision on it. But we are completing it, and we certainly will communicate, if you like, directly to Mrs. Mulvaney with our results.
Okay, yes, please do, and also to the council as well. Okay, are there any questions on this item? Can I have a motion to approve finance item number 1?
Do you need to ask for public comments or no?
No, there's no public comments.
Well, we just need to note it, I think.
No, I'm saying we don't have any gold slips.
Good.
Okay. I don't know, I'm reading this script. You may have a different one.
No, I'm just looking at the agenda.
Any public comments out there about our budget? It's a great budget, huh? Okay. Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So,
Okay, and if you move it, you need to read the title. Mayor
lovely.
Pro Tem.
Do you want me to read it as?
Read the bold print on number 1.
Okay, gotcha.
You want my script?
No, I got it.
Okay.
Thanks. Adoption of proposed FY 2018-19 city budget and 5-year capital improvement program resolution establishing appropriation limit for the city of Laguna Niguel for fiscal year 2018-19, resolution amending the salary schedules and financial reserve policy.
Okay, that was moved by Mayor Pro Tem Jennings, seconded by Councilmember Davies. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we'll now move on to other business and council reports. Okay, who would like to begin with council comments?
And,
Councilmember
Madam Mayor,
Davies?
as I've been kind of under the weather, I'm going to be leaving at this time. I want to
Okay,
stay for
would
those
you-
major votes.
Oh, we appreciate your staying. I know you've toughed it out, but appreciate your dedication for staying for those important items.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Get the feeling better.
Great, then I get another 10 minutes I can take up.
No, you don't.
Thank you, Linda. She's giving me her time.
No yielding of time, remember? No yielding of time. Even if she does write it down, she can't yield it.
I got Terry to laugh, that's all that matters. Real quick, in regards to this photo we had from the last item, Z, do you know where we're at? Is this going to be on the list of being replaced?
Yes, ma'am.
Do we know when?
We're moving forward. Hopefully, we're finalizing the plans this week, so very, very soon we'll
Before
be
fall?
advertising. Oh, absolutely.
Okay, great, good. Thank you. I just wanted to, we had a girls' safety class, the mayor and myself put it on along with police services, and we had the help of our trustee. And I tell you, it was fantastic. We had we had two double Thursdays back to back. I think the first time we had like 65, almost 70, and then the next time we had probably like 40. And it's just amazing. First of all, Get Safe does a fantastic job, and we're going to be looking coming up in fall to do one on bullying and
self-defense for the middle school boys. So we're looking forward to that. But to see these girls come in and not have a voice and know that's okay to say no and to defend themselves is amazing. And you see them from the beginning, and then at the end of the night, I mean, their voices are out there. And you can only hope that through the city, and I appreciate us always handling this, that we could, save one of these girls, if not more, from having something bad happen to them. So thank you to police services. They did a fantastic job. Again, it's one of those where, you sit there and you watch and you feel like, what, I think we're making a difference. Greatly appreciate that. Went to the volunteer dinner, Citizen of the Year. It's always fantastic. As my husband once said when he went with me, he's like, boy, it just shames me. But he goes, but you make up for it, Lori. So he kind of balances out the family. And then we did have the youth interviews. And again, as usual, it's amazing. The youth we have in Laguna Niguel, it's inspiring. And we're hoping that once they leave for college, they come back so they can be leaders in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Davies. Councilman Minigar?
I got quite a few things, but it's getting
no,
late. I
it's
can
short.
pass for the first time.
You're passing?
I pass on quite a few
okay.
items.
Let's see, and Terry's smiling again.
That's a twofer. Wow.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Sure that was up so you could be heard. I don't have much. I couldn't let this weekend pass as the smoke rose and filtered over all of our homes and the ash started dropping. My heart started racing a little bit, not for my safety, but for those of the folks that are under our care here at the city. And I was just blown away by the amount of effort that went into that. I mean, 250 acres of burn area with not a single structure lost and not an injury to be had is truly a miracle. And if you want to think about how we spend money, and we just did again tonight, on ensuring that our city is safe and our residents are protected, this is exactly how that gets done. We do it the right way here. To our friends in Aliso Viejo and Laguna Beach, we were very glad that that fire escaped you, and we were glad that our Orange County Fire Authority representatives and our police services representatives were on site and helping out. And I had a very proud moment as an elected official to watch that happen and to see the hundreds of pieces of equipment being staged down at the Laguna Niguel Regional Park. It was quite an undertaking. So thank you very much. Today is today's a big day. Today's the championship day for the voice of the people. So while we're here, the polls closed and things happen and people cast their votes. And while we were here, the people came to us and they cast their opinions and things. And so there was a whole lot of democracy going on tonight that I was very proud of. It sometimes looks like sausage being made, perhaps, but I think it's the right thing, and often good decisions come out of those. So it's a good day to be proud for Laguna Niguel. And I thank everyone on the budget. That was a hard-fought process. It was a little bit new, but I liked all the changes that were made. With the review in the past, that's very helpful as a council member to see what our objective criteria are and to set up some new objective criteria. So I like that process very much and appreciate it going forward. So thanks everyone for all their hard work. So with that, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And I'll piggyback off on a couple things that you said. First of all, City Manager Reg, thank you for that new budget process. I really like the streamlined process. It's not redundant. We don't keep turning pages with the same information. So it's good information for us, and it's easy to get to. So thank you. I did reach out to Mayor Harrington of Aliso Viejo during the fire when it started to let him know that Laguna Niguel stood by to offer any support that they needed, and he was very appreciative of our reaching out. And fortunately for them, they, all seems to be going well, and no structural loss. And I believe there were a couple of firefighters who were injured, but nothing major. So we're all very thankful of that, but just keep in mind that we are in fire season. So I've had many meetings, but there's only two you want to hear about. And one is, and the reason why I was not at the last city council meeting is because I had been invited to the White House by President Trump to meet with him. There were 15 representatives from California who were both mayors or law enforcement officials, sheriffs, or their representatives. So only 15 people from California, with the president, Attorney General Sessions, Majority Leader McCarthy, Homeland Security Kristen Nielsen, and Director of ICE Tom Homan. We were sitting in the cabinet room with him. He took about an hour with us, and what was very interesting, even before we got there, with all of the 15 California representatives talking, we were from all different cities, different parts of the state, big cities, small cities, rural towns, farming communities, different demographics were represented, but we all shared the same concern about the detrimental effect that SB 54 has on the safety of our communities, and that was the focus of our talk. Was the safety of our communities and how do we keep them safe. So while I was there, I also took the opportunity to go outside of the box of what we were there to talk about, and did ask for the president for his help for California, and specifically Orange County and Laguna Niguel, on the issue of sober living homes. So I wanted to be sure to put that on his radar. And he did have his staff in there taking notes on that. I have followed up with the president with a letter reminding him of my request. So, you know, it just, when you're, you know, probably the only time in my life I'll be in the room with the president and be able to ask him something. So that was it, Sober Living Homes. But it was a great meeting. He was very cordial, very nice. And then after the press left, he did stay and kept talking to us for about 15 minutes. Those of you who have the Mayor's Challenge coin now know that President Trump has one too. So I did present him with our challenge coin. But it was a good meeting, and it was good for all of us to see how public safety is the bottom line when it comes to all of our communities, no matter where we are in the state. The other meeting I went to, City Manager Ridge and I spent 4 days at the International Conference of Shopping Centers. And we met with data analytic companies, brokers, entertainment venue developers, went to sessions on the new trends in retail space. I know I've mentioned this to Jonathan Ordunia about pop-up spaces. There's a lot of different things going on in retail, because as we know, that is changing. And City Manager Ridge just presented our budget, and you saw how much we get from our sales tax revenues. So we really do need to focus on protecting that revenue stream, which is why we're doing so much in the area of economic development. So we did get lots of good information. We have, we'll be using that to develop our short and long-term strategic plans, and we also have a lot of follow-up to do on that, but it's very exciting. And with that, I will, which side of the room wants it? Chief McDaniel.
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I have is our next shred event will be Saturday, June 16th from 7 a.m. till 12 p.m. For those who haven't come before, it's a quick process. It usually takes 15 minutes or less to get you in through the process and out. The only thing I would ask is I saw it firsthand last time, but folks start lining up at 6:30 and it kind of creates a traffic jam out there. The event runs from 7 to 12. If you pick a later time, you're probably going to be in and out in 15 minutes or less. If you come right at 6:30 or 7, you're going to be in for a little bit of a wait. So I encourage folks not to get up so early, but come around 8, 9 o'clock, and they'll be in and out pretty quick. But that's next Saturday or the following Saturday, June 16th from 7 to 12. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Erlandson. City Attorney Dixon.
Madam Mayor, some of you have seen on Crown Valley some signs for upcoming construction. So our Crown Valley project will be starting this week, and it will go towards the end of August. And we're doing overlays from Alicia to La Plata and Moulton to Greenfield. So expect some delay during construction during that time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mesbudi. Director Roseberry? Mr. Ordunia? City Clerk Gomez? Director Giglio?
Thank you, Mayor. The Summer Concert Series kicks off this Friday with the
50s through 70s, Smoking Cobras. And a free shuttle is going to be offered from City Hall. The concerts are going to start from 7 to 9 this year instead of 6:30, so a little bit later. And the shuttle is going to start at 6:15 p.m. and it leaves from City Hall. And we still have room available in summer camps and swim lessons, but we need you to register soon as they're filling up quickly. Summer day camp begins on June 18th. And the free drop-in sports program at Chaparosa Park begins June 11th, Monday through Thursday from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And this camp is appropriate for 6 to 11-year-olds. Sea Country Senior and Community Center is hosting a courtyard concert on June 15th at 1:30. The $5 ticket price includes entertainment of Elvis and Beyond and some treats. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bell?
Very quickly, I just wanted to report that we are hard at work on expediting our Public Works Director recruitment, and we're moving carefully and considerately towards making a recommendation as quickly as possible to council. And then secondly, I just wanted to thank all of the members of the Laguna Niguel community and council who reached out to me when they realized that that nasty fire was across the street from my home. It was very gratifying to get the text messages and phone calls and so forth. I didn't respond immediately because I was just a little teeny bit busy at the time, but I did appreciate the kindness and concern. And it was very interesting, having spent 30 years working on emergency preparedness, to witness it up front and personal. And I have to say, in Orange County, you guys do it right in terms of fighting fires. It's the fastest fire that I've seen in a long time. And I spent a lot of years up in the San Gabriel Valley Mountains, which regularly catch on fire, I would say, like every other year probably. But it was the speed at which the emergency responders came was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. We're glad you're safe. Stay safe. Okay. City Manager Ridge.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of items. I certainly echo your comments from our trip to Vegas. I'm really excited about the information that we learned, and we're already starting to work behind the scenes on pursuing some of that information. And I also do think we learned some key lessons on how to make next year's participation in the conference even more useful for us. And the second thing is, I just want to mention that I was able to attend the League of California Cities Homeless Symposium. And they had a panel discussion, and our council member Davies was actually the introduction speaker. But there was an individual from the United States Interagency Council on Homeless, which really talked about the formation of multiple federal departments that are geared towards trying to solve homelessness. And then there was a league member represented on the panel, and he shared some really valuable information on potential legislation that would flow more money down to Orange County to help address the homeless issue. And then the third panel member was the CEO of the County of Orange, so he spoke on some of the county efforts, and that's it.
Okay, thank you. Anything else for the good of the city?
Real quick, if I may, in regards to the construction going down on Crown, my concern is you're going to get a lot of cars going on Rancho Niguel because of Crown Valley from Moulton to Greenfield. I know we've discussed this, can we make sure those lights are synchronized from Rancho Niguel Center and Greenfield? Because right now we still have that problem with Rancho Niguel Center not turning when the other one does, and then the cars coming from Ralph's are pulling in. So I just want to make sure we've got that ready to go when we start the street slurry.
Do, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Okay, that concludes our regular city council meeting. We are now adjourned at 9:40 p.m. Thank you and have a nice night.